the environment. Habitats. What is a habitat? A habitat is a place or environment where living things live. Who needs habitats? All living things. Why? Habitats provide them with all the things they need to survive. What do habitats provide living things with? Shelter, food, air, water, protection, the correct temperature. How does the characteristics of an environment affect the living things that live there? It affects the growth, development, and survival of the living things that live there. What are the different characteristics of an environment? They include the temperature, amount of light, amount and quality of air, amount of water, availability of food, types of soil, and types of living things present. What is the temperature of an environment? It is a measure of how hot or cold an environment is. What would happen to tropical plants if you place them in environments that are too hot? They would lose too much water and risk their survival. What would happen to tropical plants if you place them in environments that are too cold? Their cells would freeze and they will die. What plants have adapted to the cold? Examples of these plants include the fir and pine trees. What plants have adapted to hot environments? The cacti grow well in hot environments. How are plants affected by the amount of light? As different plants require different amounts of light, the amount of light received by the environment determines the types of plants that live there. Why do sunflowers not grow in rainforests? Rainforests have tall trees which will block the sunlight received by the sunflowers. Sunflowers require direct sunlight. How do plants on the ground of a rainforest survive? They survive by having large leaves. What animals prefer dark places? Examples include animals like fruit bats and worms. Do deep-sea marine fish require a lot of light? No, they live in the dark as sunlight cannot reach deep into the ocean. Why is it that fewer living things can live high up in the mountains? Up in the mountains, there is less oxygen and carbon dioxide in the air. What can influence the amount of water in an environment? The amount of rainfall or the presence of lakes, rivers, and streams. Why do living things need water? They need water for food. Some live and reproduce in water. Some find their food in water. Some lay eggs in water. Which would have a greater diversity of living things? An environment with more rainfall or one with less rainfall? One with more rainfall. Availability of food is also one of the characteristics of an environment. It will also help to determine the diversity of animals that live there. Types of soil. How are different types of soil different? Different types of soil hold different amounts of water and have different amounts of air spaces. How does the type of soil affect the animals living there? The type of soil affects the type of plant that grows there. This affects the type of animals that are there, as the animals would have to find places that grow the types of plants that they eat. Burrowing animals find it unfavorable to live in soil that is very wet or has very few air spaces. Types of living things present. How does the amount and type of plants affect the animals living in an environment? A greater diversity of plants support a greater diversity of animals. Some animals make use of the hollows of trees for shelter, and some feed on the fruit and leaves of plants. What animals use the hollows of trees for shelter? Examples include owls, squirrels, and snakes. What examples are there of animals that feed on the fruit and leaves of plants? Examples include monkeys, squirrels, and aphids. How does the types of animals present affect the types of plants that live there? Animals help the plants to disperse their seeds. Animals that live in the soil help to create air and water spaces which can enrich the soil with important nutrients. Favorable and unfavorable environments. What is a favorable environment? A favorable environment has enough resources for the living things there to survive and reproduce. Can a favorable environment become unfavorable? Yes. How? It can be caused by nature, droughts, long periods without rain, floods, heavy rainfall, fire, lightning strikes, or by human activities. What human activities make the environment unfavorable? Building cities, homes, and roads will remove trees and plants, which will then affect the animals that live there. Many will die or move to other places. Polluting oceans by releasing waste can kill the living things living there. What will happen to living things when their environments become unfavorable? They will either die, move to another environment, or adapt to the new environment eventually if the change is slow. Here are some things to think about. Here are additional questions with regards to soil. What types of soil are there? You have clayey soil or you have sandy soil. Clay soil tends to hold more water, whereas there are more air spaces in sandy soil. That is it for revision.